where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd as he's interviewing Nick Wright. He just gave his herd hierarchy, which I just did a video before, which if you're watching this video, they're both posted, so you can see me break it down there. And as you can see, 1 through 10 on the screen. In my last video, I actually forgot to mention the Cincinnati Bengals of how, because I said before that I think the Texans should be up there, and I think the Cincinnati Bengals can be up there as well, especially because there's no reason to believe that Joe Burrow isn't going to make a full recovery. But yeah, so let's just kind of see what Nick has to say, and then we can kind of break it down from there.
I agree with J-Mac that Cincinnati's got to be on there. Also, what is the argument for having Philadelphia, forget 5, ahead of Dallas? I understand Dallas had a terrible 3-hour afternoon.
Maybe because Dallas is not good and they haven't done anything to improve. And the Eagles were still able to win games even though they weren't that good and didn't have a good OC or a good DC, and Jalen Hurts wasn't healthy. And now they'll be back to being full strength, and they made major acquisitions in free agency and have a great OC and now a great DC. Maybe that's why? I don't know, Nick.
In January, the Eagles had a terrible 2-month stretch and lost their offensive leader and defensive leader, and their solution to having one of the 3 worst defenses in the entire league last year was adding a running back.
They didn't lose their defensive leader.
So
they lost a leader, not the leader.
And I would say I don't understand the love for Minnesota, because what you're telling me is you think Caleb Williams and the Bears are going to finish last in the NFC North. I totally disagree with that, but that's fine. I didn't get the Minnesota thing, and then I was reminded that Minnesota signed one of your first true loves in Sam Darnold. And so, of course, you're going to be the only person in America that is buying the Vikings right now. But listen, at least you got the Chiefs right at the top for the first time in, a summer solstice.
Well, hopefully the professor takes into consideration that I was an improving student and I was really good on my final, even though I butchered the rest of the curriculum.
Let me just point it out here. I think Sam Darnold's going to have success with Minnesota. I think Sam Darnold can develop into a Kirk Cousins level quarterback. This is going to be the first supportive environment that he's been able to actually start in. Before he was with the Jets, have been an absolute disaster. He's been with the Panthers, an absolute disaster. And he had success, very small little window, but if you actually are able to look and watch, he had success with the 49ers. So I wholeheartedly believe that Minnesota has the potential to be genuinely competitive and be a good team. I love their head coach. I love a lot of their offensive weapons that they have. And so I genuinely believe that we can see, Sam Darnold actually make some moves. I really do believe that.
So, it was interesting. I said this, you got to be fair. And I have always questioned Chicago Bears' ability to get offense right. I don't question defense. That's their culture, like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's missed on a billion quarterbacks. They got Bradshaw and Big Ben. They're always good defensively. But I looked at the Bears, and Ryan Poles, the Claypool, and Velus Jones draft picks, I was kind of out on them. I'm like, this isn't working.
Yeah.
But I have new information. Shane Waldron, DeAndre Swift, Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett. By the way, Poles is a former offensive lineman, and I think he's got both tackles right. And my take earlier today was new information, new opinion. This offense, if Caleb doesn't work, this is on Caleb. This is a really nice this is the best set of offensive pieces the Chicago Bears have had that I can remember. I think more talented potentially than the Jay Cutler years. So my opinion on the Bears is this is a pretty good this is better than C.J. Stroud had at Houston. It's much better than Bryce Young had, right?
I agree with everything you're saying. So what people have to remind themselves is the Bears are getting to draft Caleb.
C.J. Stroud's OC has the potential to literally be an elite OC. I'm not saying he definitely is, but he is on that track to being considered to being one of the next boy geniuses, which I think I talked about yesterday in yesterday's videos. So just because he's not big and flashy and popular, like that everyone knows him, but he has the potential to be considered, I think maybe the closest, recent comparison would maybe be like a Shane Steichen type thing. Shane Steichen, I believe, will prove to be an amazing offensive head coach and an amazing, just offensive mind in general. He proved that with the Eagles. He proved that with it's Justin Herbert and the Chargers, and he's proved that with the Colts. I mean, he almost made it to the playoffs. He almost literally beat CJ Stroud and the Texans with Gardner Minshew. Okay, I mean, they were just one play away from doing it. So that's a big deal. So Shane Steichen is an unbelievable talent that the OC has from the Texans, I think, has the potential to kind of follow that track. So do not sleep on that. Don't sleep on the importance of that, and just throw in Shane Waldron as being that, of just being like, well, he's a good OC. Yes, he's not a terrible OC. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that, that it all comes down on the OC necessarily, but to just overlook that, it's just we can't say that these coaches matter so much or that these quarterbacks matter so much, but then when we pick and choose when we want to apply that, it's like, well, you have this quarterback, you got to get the job done. It's like, but you just said the other day how important the head coach is, and yet he doesn't have a good head coach. If the head coach is not good enough, then why should the quarterback be able to overcome that? So it's just like, we can't. I like consistency in that regard, and so. And that's why I don't like making these random blanket definitive statements. If so-and-so doesn't succeed, it's his fault. If he succeeds, it's all because of the head coach. I don't like these definitive statements because it boxes you in then. And then when you now deviate from that, then it's like, well, now you're being inconsistent. And that is, again, as Colin said, changing your opinion with new evidence makes sense. But you're boxing yourself in with a certain philosophy that you're then choosing to say, well, I'm not going to apply that right now. Like simply not putting Joe Burrow in top 10. He thinks Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks, like the second best quarterback in the NFL. But now all of a sudden, and he thinks that quarterback victories, win-loss record is a quarterback stat. And if those are all true, and if he says the best quarterback is the quarterback that ends up winning the game more often than not, that wins the division more often than not, well, then how is he not top 10? Doesn't make sense.
Williams number 1. Because the Panthers were terrible, not the Bears were terrible. The Bears were bad, but not awful. They won 7 games. So this is why I'm so high on the Bears. Even if you don't think Caleb, and I think you probably do think Caleb is a generational prospect.
I do.
But as I do. But if the audience thinks he's just your average number 1 overall pick, those guys are worth about 3 wins as a rookie. Well, that's usually how teams go from 2-14 or 2-.
But that's so misleading because it's easier. Okay, there's 2 examples of this. One, the strength of schedule is different. Okay, so that's that. So now when you're a true number 1 team and you only have 2 wins, yeah, your strength of schedule is a lot easier. That's number 1. So therefore, you're going to have a better record. That's number 1. Number 2, the big point about this is that we talk about this in health-wise, whether it be like a physical injury, it is a lot easier to get you from like a 0% deficit to say like 85%, okay? In terms of functionality. Let's say like you hurt your arm, right? And now you're operating at 0% of health, right? You just can't move it. Now you need to get surgery. It's a lot easier to get you from 0 to like 85%, okay? But if you hurt your shoulder and you're at 85% functionality, it is very difficult to get you that next 15%. And most of the time, you can't. You can get it up to like 90, 95, 99, That's what you're looking at with this type of situation. Yes, it's a lot easier to improve when you're 2 and whatever, okay? But so you can't apply what you learn from, a terrible team that has, 2 wins versus a team that maybe has like 7, 8 wins. So I understand what Nick is saying, and I think there's some validity to it, but it's not an equal like, okay, well, we can just add an extra 3-4 games, and therefore the Bears are definitely an 11-win team, 12-win team. It's not to say that they can't do that or that they won't do that, but I think the logic and how you're getting there is wrong. And so that's not the evidence that I would use for that argument.
15 to 5 or 6 wins. He's walking into a 7-win team.
Yeah.
So if he's worth your traditional 2 or 3 wins, you're a playoff team. And what people also have to keep in mind is the Bears are going to draft Caleb 1, and then at 9, they are either going to take Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers, the second best tackle in the class, or the best or second best defensive player of any position in the class. And so they are going to add an immediate impact starter along with Caleb. So I really like where the Bears are. And I've never really known how to weigh the fact that the Chicago Bears didn't develop quarterbacks in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s against where they are right now. Like, it always feels weird to me, like things that happened well before Caleb Williams was born is a reason he shouldn't want to go to that franchise.
Yeah, I think we both.
Well, that's really comical. I agree with that, but Nick never applies that when he's talking about other teams and other history. When he's talking about maybe the Chiefs, or the Patriots or whatever, he always wants to be like, this is what happened over 20 years. And it's like, well, who cares? Patrick Mahomes wasn't even playing then. What does that have to do with anything for this argument? So again, just kind of like what my rant before, you box yourself in with a definitive philosophy that you then throw out the window when it doesn't fit your argument. I will always find that absurd. Always. And if I ever do that, please let me know. Maybe it's just something that happens when you just are constantly thinking and talking out loud, and it's just, but I can't grasp it. Because again, Nick does that all the time. And I'm always saying, what does that have to do with anything, right? The 2018 Chiefs has nothing to do with the 2023 Chiefs, the 2024 Chiefs, okay? There is just a completely different cast of characters there, completely different teams. I don't care what you did in 2018, in 2019. It doesn't matter because it's 2023 now. Granted that's not exactly the same as comparing something to like the 1970s or the 1980s, but it is different enough. You have enough different players, enough different teams, a different strategy, a different style. It just doesn't, it doesn't make sense to me.
Both agree. This is a much better situation for Caleb than it was for Justin Fields 3 years ago. And Caleb, to me, is a much better quarterback prospect than Justin Fields. So, and there's no great defense in that division, to be honest. You're not going into the AFC North. Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota are not unique or special defenses. You're not going up against a wall every Sunday.
If I can just add.
Okay. Detroit, though, beat the Chiefs, who became the Super Bowl champions. And both Detroit and the Packers almost beat the 49ers, who then also went to the Super Bowl. Those are all great, great teams. So I don't know why we're just kind of like throwing them to the side now.
Add to that 2 quick points. One is, and you guys can maybe pull it up later in the show, we obviously don't know the Bears' schedule, but we know their opponents. We don't know the order, but we know who they're playing.
Right.
If you go through it, Colin, you're going to count 10 games against defenses that you believe are bad or mediocre, and 2 games all year against excellent defenses, the Niners and the Patriots, and that's it. You then add to it, people are saying, oh, Caleb's not going to be able to do what C.J. Stroud did. Well, I don't know if he will or he won't, but he won't have to. C.J. had to take a 3-win team to the playoffs. C.J. had to add half a dozen wins. Caleb needs to add 3 wins for the Bears to be firmly a playoff team in the NFC, and I fully expect him to do it, especially if he gets 2 games against Sam Darnold and those Vikings. Yeah. My goodness, start off 2-0, my guy.
I know. Maybe it's the coach, a little Sam Darnold, I admit.
Yeah.
So I saw a story, I thought it was so weird. Todd Haley, former Kansas City guy, right, comes out and says, man,
my old buddy.
Yeah. Man, if I was a defensive coordinator, I wouldn't want to face this combo of Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. And my take is you won't have to, because Russell is the #1 quarterback, and unless he goes on a 3-game skid, Justin's not playing much. I would not have picked this if I was Justin Fields, if I had multiple options, which one reporter claims is true. I have no idea to think he's not being honest. I don't think this job is up for grabs. I think it's Russell Wilson's, and he's got a powerful agent, a pedigree, 2 Super Bowls, endorsements. What do you make of the Justin Fields landing in Pittsburgh?
2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 win.
Potentially with Russell Wilson.
Well, with respect to my old drinking buddy, Todd Haley, who I like and miss, and Todd, if you're watching, give me a call. It's been too long. This is a bad take by Todd. That's fine. He's had some hits and misses. I don't think it's going to be a platoon. But I also think what you're saying is wrong as well. This is a great spot for Justin Fields because Russell Wilson is not good anymore. I don't know why folks still they're like, man, somebody put out a highlight package of Russell Wilson. They're like, this is what the Steelers are getting. And the second clip in the highlight, you know who missed a tackle on Russell Wilson? Gerard Mayo, who's now the coach of the Patriots. Yes, once upon a time, Russell was dynamic. So I expect Russell to be the week 1 starter, and I expect Justin to be the week 7 or 8 starter and the starter the rest of the way.
Okay. Why does anyone think that that's good for Justin Fields? Why does anyone think that Justin Fields jumping into a starter role mid-season while not getting first-team reps, when not being truly developed and having all the attention on you, is a good situation for Justin Fields? It's not. Justin Fields is not good enough to overcome that, at least not right now. As I said in my previous video about Justin Fields needs to be babied, and I don't mean that in a negative way. You have to treat him like a rookie. He just got badly beaten, bruised, ego, physically, everything. He needs to be rebuilt from the ground up. Take things nice and slow. And now putting him in a situation where he knows, okay, my back is kind of against the wall. I'm kind of paying for a $25 million extension or to be able to re-sign completely. And now I'm going to just go in as a starter week 7, maybe at like halftime or something. And then you maybe you go like 1-1 or like 1-2 and things can start to spiral and get out of control. That is not a recipe for success. It's just not. The way how Justin gets to succeed is if he is the number 1 guy, you actually he's getting all of the first team reps. He's getting all of the energy and the effort and the mentality and the scheming and saying, this is what we know Justin does best. These are the plays that we need to work on. These are the plays that we're going to call, and not be like, okay, well, we're building this offense around Russell Wilson. Okay, he's obviously not good enough right now. Well, let's just throw Justin Fields in there now. That does not work, okay? It's a brutally difficult situation for a player to succeed in, especially a player that has had Justin Fields, resume at this point and his immediate experience that he's had within the NFL. So you're now putting Justin Fields in a position to potentially fail. It's just not a position to strive under. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best. I'm on the record saying that if you really think Justin Fields is the future, and you really think that, then I would sit him behind Russell Wilson for the year. And I would just say, Justin, you are the future. You are going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers starting quarterback, okay? We are going to pick up your option. We're going to pay the $25 million. We are going to rebuild you. You're going to work with our OC. Mike Tomlin's going to build up your confidence. You're going to get real healthy. You're going to be working on pliability. You're going to know this playbook inside and out. We are going to develop the offense. We're already thinking about it. We're going to be developing everything around you. We're watching all the tape. We know what all your strengths and weaknesses are. We're going to rebuild, we're going to set you up to minimize your weaknesses, and your strengths we're going to really highlight so we can really take advantage. Just little by little by little by little by little, because he is a project, not the answer, not the solution, not the savior. So throwing him in week 6 and be like, all right, Russell Wilson was our guy. He is who we went through the whole preseason with and who we did the whole training camp with and, put him in the front on the tickets, of him being like this and him doing all the press conferences and, building the offense all around him and the play calling and the practices and having him give the speeches and giving the rah-rahs in the locker room. Oh, okay, he's done. Now we're going to throw Justin Fields in there. That's not a place to succeed. That's not. Justin Fields won't even have a C on his chest. And now he has to step in for Russell Wilson and be like, all right, guys, I'm the leader now. And the locker room's going to be like, are you? You're backup quarterback right now, bro. Stepping in for Russ. It's just a weird situation that I just don't see how someone like, Justin Fields is put in a position to succeed under those circumstances. It's not to say that he can't. It's not to say that he won't. I just think it's indisputably not optimal, and you're not setting him up to succeed. You're putting more undue pressure, and you're making his job harder. So that is my biggest issue about that approach. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours, whether it's about Caleb Williams and the Bears, or Russell Wilson and Justin Fields with the Steelers, or anything else that Nick has said. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really, really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.